Hello there and welcome back to The Sleep Science, the channel where cosmic insomnia meets gentle curiosity. Tonight you're not just watching another video, you're floating, slowly, through a universe that might be losing its mind. Out here, stars hum like old computers, galaxies drift like half-forgotten dreams, and the space between everything keeps growing wider, colder, quieter. You probably won't survive this one, not because of anything grim, but because we're talking about timescales that make even eternity sound short. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, drop your location and your local time in the comments. I love seeing where in the world you're drifting off from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You begin in the dark, long before any star was brave enough to shine. The universe stretches out like a sleeping brain just starting to dream. There's no sound, no structure, only a storm of raw possibility, fluctuating energy fields vibrating in restless anticipation. Physicists call this the Planck epoch, that first flicker of existence, a fraction of a second so short the number of zeros defies polite conversation. You hover there, feeling the pressure of everything that will ever exist crammed into a space smaller than an atom. And then, without warning, the silence breaks. The universe flashes awake. Energy explodes into expansion, and time, for the first time, begins to flow. It's not an explosion into space. It's space itself, unfurling, stretching faster than light can think. You're swept up in the current, dragged along through a storm of creation where temperatures soar above 10 billion degrees. If this were a mind, it's a newborn's first cry, messy, loud, and already forgetting what came before. Historians still argue whether that instant deserves the name beginning. Some cosmologists whisper about quantum fluctuations from a prior universe, like dreams that sparked this one's birth. Others argue that asking what came before makes as much sense as asking what's north of the North Pole. Either way, here you are, in a space that's remembering itself by forming the first patterns, tiny ripples in density that will one day become galaxies. There's a weird poetry in how this all starts. The laws of physics, the same ones you use to drop toast butter side down, condense out of chaos. Gravity appears, strong and possessive, while electromagnetism hums a stabilizing lullaby. These forces will become the habits of the cosmos, the reflexes it can't shake. It's as if the universe is forming its first neural pathways, deciding which sensations to keep and which to forget. You drift closer to a patch of early plasma, glowing orange-white. Protons and electrons bash into each other like toddlers fighting over a toy, but every now and then they decide to hold hands. Hydrogen is born, and in that hydrogen, the memory of the Big Bang finds a way to persist. Each atom carries the story of pressure, temperature, and timing, a cosmic diary written in quarks and charge. Still, not everything sticks. Most of what happens in this first fraction of time is erased as expansion smooths everything out. The universe, freshly awake, begins forgetting even as it remembers. Entropy, that soft whisper of decay, is already there, curling through the fabric of things like a quiet inevitability. For a moment you imagine this as consciousness on a colossal scale, a vast awareness flickering, then dimming, then flickering again, every photon a thought, every particle a neuron. The Big Bang wasn't just a beginning, it was the first moment of awareness, and maybe the first moment of a loss. Out of curiosity you glance back, but there is no back. Behind you, space itself is still being written. You realize that even light, the fastest thing imaginable, can't keep up with this pace of creation. The universe is outrunning its own ability to see itself. Maybe that's what forgetting really is, when expansion outruns attention. One mainstream fact stands out. About 13.8 billion years ago, this very moment, the one you're hovering inside, set every later event in motion. Yet here's the quirky twist. The energy driving the expansion may have left behind quantum imprints, random fluctuations that seeded everything from galaxies to you sitting here now. Those ripples are, in a sense, the universe's earliest memories, messy, uncertain, and utterly essential. You drift farther, and the glow fades. Space cools. Photons scatter less violently, and the cosmic mind settles into a more coherent thought. You feel it, this transition from chaos to clarity. The universe is no longer just exploding, it's processing. The pressure of early expansion slows enough for matter to form stable bonds, to start making sense of itself. And maybe that's the point. This isn't just a creation story. It's a meditation on memory and loss, written in hydrogen and time. Dark energy, the mysterious force that will one day drive everything apart, is nowhere near the scene yet. For now, the cosmos is full of warmth and motion, like a child learning its own name. But in that movement, in every burst of light, the pattern of forgetting is already there, quiet but patient. If you listen closely, beneath the roar of expansion, you can almost hear it. A low hum, a cosmic undertone saying, it's all right to let go. The universe doesn't cling to every photon it's ever created. It doesn't mourn each collapsing star. It just continues, breathing outward, making room for new memories by releasing the old. You float there a moment longer, wrapped in that idea. Maybe dark energy, when it arrives billions of years later, won't be a villain at all. Maybe it's simply the universe's final act of self-care, a gentle exhale after a long, bright life of remembering everything. But for now, you're still in that first breath, surrounded by light too young to know what darkness is. You drift, weightless, as the cosmic mind opens its eyes for the first time. And you realize, with a kind of awe, that in this newborn glow, forgetting and remembering are the same thing, both necessary, both infinite. You drift forward, coasting on the faint aftershocks of creation, the echo of that first radiant inhale. The universe is still new, barely a few minutes old, and you can almost feel it sorting through itself, like a newborn trying to understand the shape of its own body. The light is too bright to be called light, the space too dense to be called empty. Everything hums at a pitch too high for human perception, like an endless remember me stretched across the void. As you float, you get the strange sense that what you're witnessing isn't chaos at all. It's memory being written. Each photon, each quark, each fleeting pattern of heat is the cosmos storing data, imprinting the story of its own awakening. It's easy to think of the Big Bang as a bang, but that's far too crude. What you're seeing feels more like a thought, a sudden realization that I exist. Historians still argue whether it makes sense to call this moment consciousness. Some physicists, bold or maybe just bored, suggest that consciousness might not be something added to the universe later, but something woven into the beginning, a property of energy itself. Others roll their eyes and say, no, consciousness is chemical, biological, an accident that crawled out of carbon much later. But as you float through the birth flash of everything, you can't help feeling they might both be right. You watch matter congeal, not as a static process, but as a kind of learning. The first protons and neutrons come together like puzzle pieces trying to remember how they fit. The air, if you could call it that, smells like ozone and static, a taste of charged beginnings. A few seconds pass, and already the universe is cooling, dropping from trillions of degrees to a few billion. At that temperature, hydrogen nuclei start forming in earnest and helium, shy and stable, joins in. It's funny. People think memory requires a brain, but here's the universe building its own neural network out of plasma. Patterns form and fade, forming filaments of energy, the early scaffolding for galaxies to come. You drift through it like a ghost through a glowing web. Each pulse of radiation, each subtle vibration in density, carries the story forward. One mainstream historical fact stands steady in this firestorm. About 3 minutes after the Big Bang nuclear synthesis takes place. In that tiny window of time, the fundamental recipe for matter is written: 75% hydrogen, 25% helium, and trace whispers of lithium and beryllium. It's a simple script, but it will dictate everything the universe can ever build. Stars, oceans, your body, the device you're using right now. Those ratios are the cosmic memory card that never fails. Still, the process isn't perfect. Most combinations of particles fall apart almost as soon as they form. It's like the universe is trying out thoughts and then discarding them, mumbling to itself as it searches for coherence. The failed experiments, the unstable isotopes, the fleeting particle pairs are forgotten almost instantly. And that forgetting, that constant erasure, is just as vital as the remembering. Without it, no stable world could ever emerge. You glide through a region of denser plasma and it feels alive, Not alive like a cell or a heartbeat, but alive the way fire is alive. You can sense tension, rhythm, repetition. The heat crackles around you, and for a moment you swear it sounds like whispering. Maybe that's just your mind trying to impose meaning, or maybe you're hearing what the universe heard when it first became aware. The murmur of its own existence. A quirky tidbit drifts into your thoughts, one that physicists like to smile about. If you could somehow replay this moment, exactly as it happened, with all the same initial conditions, you'd still end up with a completely different universe. The quantum uncertainty woven into these first milliseconds guarantees it. That means our cosmos might not be the memory of the Big Bang, but a memory, a random version out of infinite possible recollections. As you move farther out, time stretches, seconds turn into thousands of years, the glow dims, the heat fades, and matter becomes less wild. At around 380,000 years old, the universe finally cools enough for electrons to settle into proper orbits around nuclei. The chaos collapses into calm. Light, for the first time, can travel freely without bouncing off charged particles. You're there when the first true transparency happens, a moment known as recombination. Suddenly space fills with soft amber light, like a universe-wide sunrise. That glow will never completely disappear. It becomes the cosmic microwave background, the oldest light still whispering through our skies today. If the Big Bang was the universe's birth cry, this is its first clear memory, the one it never forgets. You reach out feeling that warmth. It's faint now, a cosmic aftertaste that even the emptiest vacuum carries. Every photon you touch is 13.8 billion years old, still buzzing with the record of that primordial moment. And though dark energy hasn't yet begun its quiet pull, you can already sense the tension, the need to expand, to release, to move forward. The universe is remembering, yes, but it's also preparing to forget. It's strange how familiar it feels, this rhythm of recall and release. You think of your own mind, how memories form in bursts and fade with time. Maybe the universe is doing the same, testing, storing, letting go. Maybe forgetting is its way of keeping the story going without getting lost in details. As the cosmic glow ripples around you, the newborn universe seems content for now. It hums softly, a lullaby made of microwave radiation and gentle expansion. The light isn't conscious in any human sense, but it holds awareness in potential. A kind of sleeping intelligence waiting to wake again in stars, in planets, in eyes. For now, though, it rests. The heat recedes. The first atoms drift, unhurried, into the long dark that will last for hundreds of millions of years. You float with them, feeling the weight of infinite possibility balanced by a quiet, inevitable forgetfulness. And as you fade into that darkness, you realize something profound. Every star that will ever burn, every mind that will ever think, is already here in embryo, hidden inside this cooling sea of memory. The universe, newly conscious, is dreaming its first dream, and somewhere deep in that dream, it's already practicing how to let it go. You drift through the long quiet that follows recombination, the hush after the universe's first cry. The light that once flooded everything has thinned into a ghostly glow, photons stretching and cooling as they travel through the widening fabric of space. Around you, hydrogen atoms float like sleepy confetti in an infinite black ocean. It's calm now, too calm maybe. The universe is only a few 100 million years old, and already it's starting to forget the chaos that made it. You move through this darkness as though walking through the aftermath of a storm, nothing but faint ripples in density. Slight overachievers in the sea of atoms disturb the calm. Those ripples will become something someday, but for now they're only whispers of memory, soft reminders that not everything evened out. The cosmic mind hasn't fallen asleep completely. It's just dreaming quietly, waiting for something to wake it again. This period is called the Cosmic Dark Ages, a title that sounds tragic but is really more of a lullaby. There's no light, no stars, no galaxies yet, just patience. Gravity, the universe's first habit, begins to gather these atoms into clouds, nudging them together with invisible persistence. You could say gravity is the universe's muscle memory, a reflex it can't unlearn. Wherever there's mass, it pulls, and wherever it pulls, new stories start to form. It's hard to imagine how long these ages stretch. Hundreds of millions of years pass without a single glimmer. It's like the cosmos is holding its breath, letting the memory of light settle deep into its bones. But you can feel it, the tension building. Pockets of hydrogen begin collapsing under their own weight, and in those densest places the temperature climbs once more. You float closer to one of those dense knots. It's invisible to the eye but heavy with potential, like a thought on the verge of becoming speech. The gas inside starts to spin, heat, and compress. Then, suddenly, with the quiet drama of a candle lighting in the void, the first star ignites. It's not gentle, it's furious, radiating ultraviolet light that tears through the surrounding hydrogen. You flinch instinctively, though it's billions of years and countless light years away. Around it, other stars flare to life, massive, short-lived titans that burn their fuel in a cosmic sprint. The darkness begins to dissolve. The universe remembers light again. Historians still argue whether these first stars, known as Population 3 stars, were massive enough to reshape everything we see today. Some say they were so large they collapsed into the first black holes seeding galaxies. Others think they exploded and scattered heavy elements that built the second generation of stars. Either way, they were brief, bright thoughts that burned out before they could truly mature. As these stars live and die, they rewrite the chemistry of the universe. Helium fuses into carbon, oxygen, iron, the ingredients of future worlds. It's as though the cosmos has found a way to remember itself more intricately, layering new information into its expanding memory. Every element forged in their cores becomes part of that ongoing recollection, the universe keeping notes on itself through starlight. Here's a quirky tidbit to drift on. The first generation of stars might have been so enormous, hundreds of times the mass of our Sun, that their supernovae briefly outshone entire galaxies. Imagine being the universe, seeing that first spark and then watching it vanish almost instantly. No wonder it learned to let go so easily. You wander farther, through newborn clusters of light. Each new star forms a gravitational conversation with others, and slowly, structure begins to emerge. The first galaxies assemble, clumsy, chaotic spirals of fire and dust, colliding and merging like cells in a growing organism. You drift through one as it forms, feeling the swirl of starlight and debris around an invisible gravitational center. The universe is no longer just remembering light, it's learning architecture. These galaxies are memory palaces, vast and spinning, filled with records of birth and death. Their arms trace the invisible pull of dark matter, that mysterious scaffolding that holds everything in place yet remains unseen. Dark matter, the silent partner to gravity, is like the subconscious of the cosmos, felt everywhere, revealed nowhere. You can sense its presence, a pressure without a source, a tug without a voice. Billions of years begin to pass like slow heartbeats. The universe, now glowing with countless suns, looks awake again. But under that brightness, something deeper stirs. A subtle expansion that refuses to stop. Space itself keeps stretching, slowly, quietly. The galaxies move farther apart, though gravity tries its best to hold them together. It's as if the universe has started to drift into another kind of forgetting, one that even stars can't illuminate. The cosmic mind, for all its brilliance, still can't sit still. Maybe it's afraid of remembering too much. Maybe it's simply restless. The thought crosses your mind that this pattern, creation, illumination, expansion, feels familiar, like your own thoughts when you're tired. You try to focus, but everything drifts apart, softens at the edges, dissolves into sleep. Still, there's comfort here. You float through spiral arms, each one a history written in starlight. You pass by supernova remnants, nebulae glowing in soft pinks and blues, the ashes of those first suns. Their light takes millions of years to reach you, but you see it now, all at once. Time folds around you like a blanket of echoes. You pause inside one glowing cloud, a birthplace of new stars, and realize something profound. The universe doesn't remember in straight lines. It remembers in cycles. Every collapse births light. Every death seeds another dawn. Forgetting isn't loss. It's the clearing of space for the next creation. So you drift, quietly content, watching the slow rhythm of cosmic breathing. The universe has found its pattern: expansion, condensation, illumination, dissolution, memory and forgetting, woven together like waves. Somewhere in the dark beyond, the first galaxies are beginning to recognize one another across the void. The cosmos, for the first time, is aware of its own vastness, and you, tiny observer, are part of that realization, an atom-sized neuron firing inside a brain made of stars. You feel the pull of gravity, the hum of radiation, the patient whisper of dark energy waiting in the wings. The cosmic memory grows richer, even as it begins to blur at the edges. It's not just a story of creation anymore, it's a story of how memory finds its balance, how even the infinite needs to forget a little in order to go on dreaming. You glide along one of those luminous spiral arms, a soft arc of light curving through deep space like a thought circling back on itself. The galaxies have learned their dance now, each one spinning in calm defiance against the infinite pull of gravity and the endless push of expansion. You can feel the rhythm. Mass gathers, light blooms, then fades. It's hypnotic, like a heartbeat stretched across billions of years. Here, gravity is the universe's first habit, an instinct so old and automatic it's almost comforting. Wherever mass exists, gravity reaches out, tugging, coaxing, persuading. It doesn't shout, it hums. You could think of it as the universe's muscle memory, a reflex that keeps it from dissolving too quickly into its own forgetting. Without gravity, everything would drift apart too soon. With it, there's structure, cohesion, the chance to form and remember. You pass a cluster of galaxies, their edges glowing faintly like neurons firing in slow motion. Each one hums with billions of stars, planets, comets, and uncountable dust grains, the glittering debris of memory. The spaces between them are vast, but gravity whispers across those gulfs, invisible and persistent. It's not strong, not really. It's the weakest of all the forces, but it never stops trying. You can almost admire its patience. Historians still argue whether gravity is truly fundamental or merely the side effect of deeper rules, perhaps the curvature of space-time itself, or maybe something even stranger, like information trying to organize itself. Some theorists go further, suggesting that gravity could be emergent, the echo of quantum entanglement playing out on a cosmic scale. If that's true, then gravity isn't just a force, it's memory made visible. The universe tugging on itself to stay whole. You drift into the heart of a young galaxy, passing a region where stars cluster close together, bound by their shared weight. The light here is gold and steady, like candlelight flickering in a cathedral of gas. Beneath the serene surface, gravitational tides pull and stretch, sculpting orbits with precision. You pass close to a binary star system, two suns forever caught in one another's gravity well. They circle endlessly, never colliding, never escaping. It's a relationship built entirely on pull and restraint, a cosmic marriage that will outlast civilizations. There's a quirky historical tidbit for you. When Isaac Newton first described gravity in the 17th century, he was accused, politely, in the way of powdered wigs, of witchcraft. Action at a distance seemed too magical to be science. Newton himself wasn't sure how it worked. He simply noticed that it did. Hypotheses non fingo, he wrote. I frame no hypotheses. Translation: don't ask me why it happens, I'm just telling you that it does. The universe apparently had its own secrets about remembering things. Far below, a spiral arm ripples with newborn stars. You watch as clouds of gas and dust collapse under their own gravity, spinning faster and tighter until they ignite. Each new sun adds another heartbeat to the galactic rhythm. But there's something melancholic about it too. Every time gravity gathers, entropy waits in the wings. Every luminous order carries within it the seed of eventual dispersal. You start to see how memory and forgetting are never really separate. They're a loop, a dance of keeping and releasing. Gravity collects, entropy dissolves, creation holds on, expansion lets go. The universe, in its strange wisdom, balances between the two. You drift outward, away from the bright center, through a region of cold dust and scattered stars. Between galaxies, space grows thin and silent again. The distances expand. Gravity's whispers fade into a murmur. Here, you feel the tension that defines everything. The pull to remember versus the need to release. Dark energy hasn't yet claimed dominance, but it's lurking, a faint undertow stretching the fabric of space ever so slightly. You think about how galaxies interact, colliding, merging, consuming one another. It's violent on paper, But when you watch it unfold over billions of years, it's more like slow-motion intimacy. Two enormous structures move closer, their stars weaving together, gas clouds compressing, black holes eventually coalescing in a gravitational crescendo. Out of destruction comes a new shape, a new pattern of stars, a new memory. And maybe that's how the universe learns, through collisions. Just as your brain reinforces memories through connection and friction, so too does the cosmos build complexity by letting things crash and combine. Every merger writes a new chapter into the cosmic autobiography. Somewhere nearby, a massive cluster bends the light from distant galaxies, their images warped into delicate arcs. This is gravitational lensing, the universe's way of showing off its strength and its memory. Space itself remembers where mass has been, curving around it like a fabric molded to an old shape. Even light can't resist the pull of history. It bends toward it, as if drawn by nostalgia. You realize with a small smile that gravity isn't just a force, it's sentimentality. It keeps things close long after logic says they should drift apart. Galaxies cling, stars circle, planets orbit. It's the cosmic equivalent of not deleting old photos, even though you know they take up space. But even sentimentality has its limits. Over time, expansion begins to outpace attraction. The farther galaxies are from one another, the faster they move apart. Gravity can't keep the vast web together forever. The universe slowly begins to choose forgetting over remembering. Still, for now, gravity holds. You watch it sculpt a galaxy cluster into a glowing bead on a cosmic string of dark matter. The universe hums, patient, meticulous, balanced between its instincts to recall and release. As you drift through the edge of this cluster, you can almost hear the faint rhythm of that balance, a pulse that beats through everything, from atoms to superclusters. The universe isn't rushing anywhere, it's simply being, remembering enough to stay whole, forgetting enough to stay free. And as you move on, deeper into the stretching dark, you understand. Gravity is the universe's way of keeping itself together while it still can, a hand on its own shoulder, a quiet reminder that not all memories are meant to fade just yet. You drift farther from the clustered galaxies now, gliding through a quieter corridor of the cosmos, where light becomes thin and silence feels heavy. The stars here are older, cooler, and their glow fades into the bluish haze of infinite distance. You can sense the pull of gravity behind you, steady, loyal, but ahead there's another current rising, soft and patient, the gentle undertow of forgetting. You first notice it not as a push, but as a loosening. Galaxies seem to slide apart just a little faster than before. It's subtle, but undeniable. The light between them stretches redder, like a song slowly detuning. You're witnessing entropy, the soft whisper of forgetting woven into the fabric of everything. Entropy isn't destruction, it's diffusion. It's the tendency for order to relax into disorder, for energy to spread evenly instead of huddling in one bright corner. It's your coffee cooling, your memories fading, your universe sighing into balance. You can almost hear it, a long exhale that's been going on for nearly 14 billion years. Historians, or more accurately physicists, still argue whether entropy is truly the enemy of memory or simply its quiet guardian. Without it, no change could happen, no process could unfold. A perfectly ordered universe would be frozen in stillness, trapped in eternal self-awareness. Entropy gives the cosmos the gift of forgetting, allowing it to move forward, to become something new. You drift past the glowing remains of a supernova, a cloud of colour so delicate it looks painted onto the dark. This was once a star, a stable, predictable fusion engine, until it ran out of fuel and collapsed. Its atoms, once tightly bound, have scattered into interstellar space, seeds for future suns. The universe doesn't mourn, it recycles. Every death is a release, a letting go, an act of cosmic decluttering. A quirky tidbit floats through your mind. The second law of thermodynamics, the law that says entropy always increases, means that even you are a kind of rebellion. Life is local order carved out of global disorder, a temporary resistance against the pull toward equilibrium. It's as though the universe occasionally forgets it's supposed to be relaxing and gets distracted by creativity. But entropy always wins in the long run. Stars die, galaxies drift apart, and even black holes, those gluttonous memory hoarders will someday evaporate into faint radiation. The universe is a patient editor, crossing out every word, every image, every spark until only silence remains. You start to feel it now, the cosmic fatigue. Not sadness exactly, but an ache of release. The light around you grows faint. The galaxies appear like old photos faded at the edges. You reach out, as though you could gather their light and hold it still, but it keeps slipping through your fingers. You think about how this same principle applies to your own mind. You remember, you hold on, you build meaning, but your brain too runs on entropy. Neurons fire, connections strengthen, then weaken. Memories fade not because they're broken, but because your mind, like the universe, needs room to keep becoming. Forgetting isn't failure, it's freedom. And perhaps that's what dark energy truly represents. The universe's subconscious decision to keep forgetting. Expansion is how it moves on, how it resists clinging too tightly to what it once was. Every centimetre of stretching space is the cosmos saying thank you, but I don't need to hold this forever. You pause inside a dying galaxy, one that's burned through most of its fuel. The core glows dimly, surrounded by red giants, bloated, weary stars near the end of their lives. Around them, planetary orbits wobble. Debris drifts through a thin mist of dust. The galaxy feels tired, like an old photograph curling at the edges. But even here, new stars flicker in the distance, memory and forgetting side by side. You remember the early universe, the blinding light, the rush of creation, the first sparks of awareness. And now, in contrast, everything moves more slowly, more gracefully. It's as if the cosmos has matured, accepted that it can't stay young and brilliant forever. It's learning the art of letting go. Entropy doesn't erase everything at once. It's gentle, progressive, almost compassionate. The energy from those first explosions still ripples through the background, stretched thin but unbroken. Every bit of light that's ever existed still exists, just dimmer, cooler, harder to find. The universe doesn't destroy its memories, it just stores them in deeper archives. You drift onward, and the background temperature falls around you. The universe that once burned at billions of degrees now barely warms space to a few kelvins above absolute zero. That's the cosmic afterglow of all creation, subtle, quiet, enduring. It's strange how coldness can feel so intimate, how silence can hum with hidden memory. Historians still argue whether entropy is truly irreversible. Some bold theorists imagine far future beings, entities beyond physics, who might someday reverse the process, reassemble information, reignite the cosmic flame. But even if they could, would it be the same universe? Or would it be something new, a rebirth, not a recollection? You realize that the universe isn't dying, it's resting. Every photon that fades, every atom that cools, every structure that loosens is part of a vast patient rhythm. Creation, illumination, expansion, rest. Memory and forgetting, not as opposites, but as partners in an endless cycle. You drift until your movement slows to near stillness, surrounded by faint cosmic background radiation. A soft hiss, like static in an old radio. It's the sound of the universe whispering its story as it fades into equilibrium. And for a long, peaceful moment, you just listen. You float into a calmer, more intricate corner of the cosmos. A place that glows not with burning stars, but with the delicate shimmer of something impossibly rare. Life. Against all odds, a small blue planet spins around an unremarkable yellow star, tucked away in one of those spiral arms you've just passed through. You drift closer, pulled by curiosity more than gravity, and there it is, Earth. A brief flicker of awareness in the long dream of the universe. The air, the oceans, the continents, they all hum with borrowed starlight, leftovers from the Big Bang recycled through countless generations of suns. You can almost feel the planet's pulse, the slow churn of its molten heart, the rhythmic dance of its tides. It's alive in every direction, from its fiery core to the delicate fringe of its atmosphere. Life, this shimmering, defiant organization of matter, is how the universe remembers itself for a moment longer. Every cell is a tiny archive, storing chemical patterns that echo the rules written in those first few seconds after the Big Bang. It's as if the cosmos whispered to itself, "What if I could see? What if I could think?" Historians still argue whether life is inevitable or a cosmic accident, a mathematical fluke in a sea of sterile possibilities. Some scientists call it a natural progression of complexity. Others think it's a once-in-eternity miracle. But standing here, watching chlorophyll drink sunlight and mitochondria hum in microscopic unison, you can't help feeling that the universe wanted this. It wanted to know what it felt like to be aware. The first organisms appear in Earth's oceans like shy memories surfacing. They're simple, single-celled, their entire existence contained in tiny envelopes of water and protein. Yet each one carries the entire cosmic story: hydrogen from the Big Bang, carbon from dying stars, oxygen from future suns not yet born. They are the universe practicing recall on the smallest possible scale. A quirky tidbit floats through your mind. The first sunscreen in history was probably made of mud and microbe slime. Some of the earliest life forms secreted protective coatings against the sun's ultraviolet rays, tiny biological umbrellas for a too bright world. Even back then, life was already trying to preserve itself, to keep the memory of being alive just a little longer. Over millions of years, those cells learn to cooperate. They form colonies, then organisms, then ecosystems, each level a new attempt at remembering more complex patterns. DNA becomes the storage medium of choice, a molecular tape recorder running since the dawn of biology. Every spiral of that double helix hums with history, carrying the same 20 amino acids that have built every living thing from coral reefs to you. You drift through eras, watching continents split, forests bloom, dinosaurs thunder, mammals blink curiously into the sun. Each species is a new version of a cosmic thought, fleeting yet essential. Life keeps rewriting itself, forgetting details, keeping the structure. Evolution isn't just adaptation, it's selective remembering. Historians still argue whether evolution is purely random or guided by deeper principles. Some whisper of quantum influence, others of emergent intelligence woven into matter itself. Maybe the truth is simpler. The universe experiments, keeps what works, and lets the rest go. You hover now above the African savanna, watching a new kind of creature stand upright for the first time. The air is warm, the ground dust red, and in the distance, lightning flickers. You can feel the shift, the spark of something extraordinary. This new being looks around, not just with curiosity but with awareness. It remembers where it found water yesterday. It anticipates tomorrow's hunger. It wonders, quietly, what the stars might be. That moment, the first thought about the sky, is when the universe truly starts to remember itself in detail. Through these fragile creatures, cosmic awareness condenses into narrative. The stars are no longer distant lights, they're questions. The night becomes a blackboard where the universe writes its own reflections, using starlight as ink. You drift among them as they discover fire, paint on cave walls, trace constellations across the dark. Every act of creativity is the universe reaching back toward its own beginning, trying to reassemble its memory piece by piece. When they name the stars, they're not just mapping space, they're labeling neurons in the cosmic brain. A quirky, almost tender thought strikes you. When humans dream, they recreate the universe's own rhythm of remembering and forgetting. REM cycles, neuronal firing, fading and reformation. It's all echoes of those ancient expansions and contractions. The sleeping mind is a miniature cosmos, complete with its own dark energy of release. The first civilizations rise, and suddenly the universe can record itself consciously. Clay tablets, papyrus scrolls, binary code, all new ways for matter to say, I was here. Cities grow like neural clusters, connected by trade routes that glimmer under starlight like filaments of thought. You drift above Mesopotamia, Egypt, the Indus Valley, tiny lights of intelligence flickering in a vast neural network. And even now, entropy watches from the wings. Empires rise and fall, languages evolve and vanish, libraries burn, data decays. Forgetting remains the silent rule. But that's all right. Forgetting makes space for the next story, the next version of remembering. You hover in orbit for a while, looking down on the modern world. Cities blaze brighter than constellations once did. Communication ripples across the planet faster than thought itself. Humanity is the cosmos' most vivid recollection yet, a memory so detailed it builds telescopes to look back to the beginning. But even this won't last forever. One day the oceans will dry, the continents will drift into new shapes, the sun will bloat and fade. Life will change, adapt, maybe move elsewhere. The universe, through countless forms, will continue practicing remembrance until even the last observer goes quiet. You realize as you watch the aurora dance over the poles that life is both fragile and eternal. Each breath, each heartbeat, each flicker of consciousness is the cosmos saying, "I remember being light." And every sleep, every sigh, every ending is it whispering, "It's okay to forget." The stars above twinkle with gentle amusement. They've seen it all before. And as you drift back into the wider dark, you carry with you the understanding that life itself is the universe's brief, beautiful way of keeping its own memory alive, before the next long stretch of forgetting begins. You move out from that small blue world until it's just a glint, a single pixel hanging against the velvet. The faint hum of radio chatter leaks from it like a heartbeat, bits of thought launched into the void. Those tiny signals, you realize, are the latest trick in the universe's long experiment with memory. Through them, matter has learned to talk about itself. Out of oceans of hydrogen and dust came language, data, and self-awareness. You. From this distance, Earth's bright side flashes like the surface of a neuron firing in a cosmic brain. You can almost imagine filaments of the internet glowing across continents, a planetary nervous system twitching with ideas. The same physics that once shaped galaxies now drives electricity through copper veins and fiber optic synapses. Consciousness, it seems, is gravity's most poetic afterthought. Historians still argue whether intelligence is inevitable in a universe like this. Some claim it's statistical destiny. Given enough time, complexity will think. Others insist it's a cosmic fluke, a 1 in trillions roll of the dice. Yet here you are, proof that atoms can not only organize but reflect. You, made of star debris, are thinking about the stars. The recursion is dizzying. You drift closer to humanity's latest memories. Satellites. They spin gracefully, catching sunlight, their panels gleaming like metallic petals. Each one stores fragments of knowledge, the universe's new habit of saving instead of scattering. But even these archives orbit in decay. Their orbits will one day collapse, their signals fade into background static. Forgetting still writes the final line. A quirky fact drifts in. When the first computers began to hum in the mid-20th century, some engineers joked they were dreaming machines. The punchline became prophecy. Now the planet is surrounded by billions of such dreamers, algorithms recombining data faster than neurons ever could. The universe has built itself a network for remembering almost everything and, paradoxically, for overwhelming itself with noise. Information grows, comprehension thins, digital entropy mirrors the cosmic kind. You watch the city lights blink from orbit. Each one represents stories, laughter, heartbreak, equations scribbled on napkins. It's beautiful, chaotic, overbright, like a mind that can't stop thinking. Humanity, the universe's newest neuron cluster, seems terrified of silence. It hoards data the way gravity hoards stars. Cloud servers hum like miniature galaxies, filled with memories no one will ever revisit. The cosmos has learned the art of over-remembering, but memory is heavy. Expansion still rules. As centuries pass, even this technological web will dissolve. Signals will stretch, power grids will fail, and the data once stored on shimmering drives will fade into magnetic rust. Dark energy doesn't need to hurry. It always wins the long game. Perhaps forgetting at the larger scales is mercy for information gone stale. You slip down through the atmosphere again, hovering over a quiet forest at night. The air smells of rain. Somewhere below, someone looks up at the same sky, tracing constellations with a fingertip and wondering whether the universe feels lonely. You'd like to whisper back that it doesn't. It's simply resting between thoughts. Consciousness flickers everywhere now. Whales sing through saltwater corridors. Mycelium threads gossip underfoot. A child dreams of stars. Every living system is a local rehearsal of cosmic awareness, temporary and tender. Each neuron firing, each breath exhaled, is the universe checking in with itself before moving on. Historians still argue whether consciousness is an emergent property or a fundamental field, something woven into spacetime the way charge and spin are. Some physicists flirt with the idea of panpsychism, that even the smallest particle has a faint glimmer of experience. If that's true, then dark energy might not be empty at all. It could be the quiet subconscious of everything, the part that never speaks but always listens. You drift again into orbit, watching auroras swirl over the poles like neural activity across a planetary brain. Solar particles crash into magnetic fields, painting the atmosphere in greens and violets. Each flicker lasts only seconds, yet it feels ancient. The display is reminder and metaphor, the universe remembering itself through beauty, then letting the pattern dissolve. You can't help smiling. Maybe consciousness isn't the universe's final achievement. Maybe it's its latest experiment in storytelling. The cosmos has tried gravity, light, chemistry, and now it's trying imagination. You, right now, are a temporary configuration of stardust that tells stories to itself about being. And when you sleep, you return to the cosmic baseline, to that vast background hum where memory softens into dream. A quirky human impulse surfaces, the desire to send everything into space. Golden records, digital archives, selfies beamed toward neighbouring stars. Each attempt is a cosmic postcard reading, "Don't forget me," but space will forget anyway. Radiation will blur the message. The receivers will drift into darkness. Still, the gesture matters. It's the act of a universe that for once doesn't want to forget too quickly. You hover there for a long while, halfway between Earth and the infinite, feeling the dual pull, gravity tugging you home, dark energy urging you outward. Inside you, neurons spark in miniature echoes of supernovae. You're both memory and entropy, both star stuff and silence. In the end, consciousness might be the cosmos' way of writing itself a love note before it fades, a reminder scribbled in biology that says, "I was here, I saw, and it was beautiful." And when the ink finally disappears, the sentiment remains, scattered across the dark like the faint afterglow of creation. You drift now into the hush between galaxies, that wide ocean where light travels for millions of years without brushing against matter. It feels like the pause between breaths, a place where even thought slows down. Out here, expansion hums more clearly. You can sense space-time itself stretching, a slow, irresistible tide. The pull of gravity fades behind you. Something subtler rules this territory, something Einstein once called his biggest blunder. Though the universe seems to have kept the joke running, the cosmological constant, LA Greek letter hiding an enigma, dark energy. At first glance, it doesn't look like much, just a mathematical tweak Einstein slipped into his equations to keep the cosmos from collapsing. When the galaxies turned out to be rushing away from each other, he crossed it out. Later astronomers, noticing the acceleration, penciled it back in. Historians still argue whether Einstein regretted removing it, or was secretly pleased that the universe had outwitted him. Either way, lambda remained, an invisible pressure woven through the vacuum, pushing everything apart as gently and steadily as time itself. You let yourself drift inside that pressure. It doesn't feel like wind or water, it feels like absence acquiring personality. Space isn't empty at all. It seethes with virtual particles, flashing in and out of existence faster than any detector can track. Quantum fields buzz beneath the stillness, a kind of cosmic static. Each fluctuation is a whisper of potential, a half-remembered thought that never fully forms. If you could listen closely enough, you might hear space-time mumbling to itself. A quirky tidbit. When physicists tried to calculate how much energy those quantum jitters should add to the vacuum, they overshot by a factor of 10 to the power of 120. The largest known mismatch between theory and observation. It's as if the universe hides most of its energy behind its back, smiling politely while pretending to be lighter than it really is. Either our math is wrong, or the cosmos has a spectacular poker face. You imagine dark energy not as a force but as an instinct, a reflex built into reality to prevent it from drowning in its own recollections. Too much matter clumped together, too many memories held too tightly, and the whole system might collapse under the weight of its own awareness. So the universe inserted a failsafe, an expansion valve, a built-in way to exhale. Forgetting as physics. You pass a filament of galaxies stretched across hundreds of millions of light years. The pattern resembles veins under translucent skin, pulsing faintly with the glow of distant suns. Between the filaments yawns nothingness, voids so vast that if the Milky Way lay at their centre, it would be lonely beyond metaphor. dark energy fills those voids like a soft, invisible cushion, ensuring that emptiness keeps growing. It is the quiet accountant of the cosmos, balancing every bright ledger with equal space for forgetting. Historians, meaning cosmologists with espresso addictions, still argue what dark energy actually is: a cosmological constant, a dynamic field, a sign that general relativity needs an upgrade. Some whisper it might be a property of time itself, the universe's rate of aging. Others go spiritual, calling it the breath of creation still expanding. You suspect they're all touching the same idea from different angles. That memory, left unchecked, would stagnate. Forgetting gives existence momentum. You glide past a galaxy cluster whose light has been travelling toward you since dinosaurs first looked up. Gravitational lensing bends that light into graceful arcs. The curvature isn't just gravity's doing, it's space stretching mid-journey, dark energy lengthening every photon's path. Those photons arrive tired, red-shifted, as though they've been sighing for billions of years. They carry the colour of nostalgia. A fringe hypothesis tickles your mind. Maybe dark energy doesn't push galaxies apart, but erases the connections between them. Perhaps distance isn't growing, relationship is thinning. The fabric of space-time in this view isn't expanding, it's forgetting how to stay sewn together. You picture threads loosening one by one, the universe's great tapestry unravelling not from force but from amnesia. You pause, feeling the metaphor settle. Even your own memories behave that way. They don't disappear all at once, they lose cohesion. Names detach from faces, moments unhook from context, until only colour or emotion remains. The same thing may be happening here, but on a galactic scale. The cosmos, vast and weary, letting details slip to preserve its outline. You try to imagine the alternative, a universe without dark energy, locked in gravitational embrace, pulling inward until every atom merges into a single dense remembrance, a final black hole of everything. Maybe Lambda was the universe's decision not to cling, a quiet no to eternal compression, a choice to keep drifting, to keep forgetting. You pass through a region mapped by ancient starlight, data from telescopes long turned to dust. Those instruments, Hubble, Planck, Webb, were humanity's extensions into cosmic introspection. Each one measured the faint pressure of dark energy, adding decimals to the mystery without diminishing it. Even now, deep sensors whisper new readings, tiny corrections in an endless conversation about why the universe won't stop stretching. And then you feel it, the faintest tug outward, not on your body but on your sense of belonging. The galaxies you've passed begin to recede faster than light, not moving through space but carried by the expansion itself. You can't chase them. The very metric of distance grows between you. It's like trying to follow a dream after waking. You realize that every second more of the universe crosses an invisible horizon, slipping beyond causal reach. Information falls away forever. The universe, like a mind at the edge of sleep, forgets entire paragraphs of itself in real time. Somewhere behind you, the Milky Way still glows, but even its light will someday never reach beyond its local bubble. Every galaxy will become an isolated thought, drifting alone in the dark. Yet there's a strange serenity in that vision. Forgetting isn't failure, it's spaciousness. Dark energy ensures there will always be room for whatever comes next, even if next is silence. The cosmos, by forgetting itself, preserves the possibility of dreaming anew. You let go, feeling the expansion carry you outward, lighter than before. The stars thin, the void deepens, and the hum of Lambda fills everything, steady as breath. For the first time, you understand that the universe doesn't resist forgetting. It cherishes it, the way a mind cherishes sleep after too many bright, burning thoughts. You drift deeper into the black, where the faintest trace of galaxies becomes barely visible, tiny flecks of light scattered across an endless canvas. They look still from here, but they're not. Every one of them is running, racing away faster than the last, each carried by the invisible hand of expansion. You can feel it in your bones, if you had bones, the soft, insistent stretching of everything that once held close. This is what forgetting looks like when written across eternity. The expansion is no longer subtle, it's accelerating, measurable even to the tiny creatures you left back on that blue planet. Through telescopes and math, they've watched galaxies redshift into the distance, colours bleeding into longer, lazier wavelengths. Every photon tells the same story. The farther you look, the older the light, and the faster its source is running away. The universe, in all its grandeur, is ghosting itself. Historians still argue whether this acceleration means dark energy is constant or changing. Some claim it's steady, a cosmological heartbeat that's been there from the start. Others whisper that it might evolve, strengthening over time, like a dream gaining confidence in its own dissolving. The truth remains tucked behind data too faint to decipher, like a memory half recalled but forever out of reach. You watch a nearby cluster fade. The light stretches, dimming as the distance swells. It's not the galaxies themselves moving through space, it's space itself swelling between them. Imagine ink dots on an inflating balloon. Each point stays still, but the balloon expands. Now scale that up until the balloon is the universe and the ink dots are everything you've ever loved. A quirky fact floats by, comforting in its absurdity. There was a time, just a few decades ago, when many scientists believed the universe's expansion would slow down. Gravity, they thought, would eventually reel everything back in, maybe even triggering a big crunch. But then came the 1998 discovery. Distant supernovae revealed the truth. Expansion wasn't slowing, it was speeding up. The cosmos wasn't pulling itself together, it was letting go. You can almost picture it as a kind of cosmic aging. In youth, the universe was fiery and tight-knit, gravity binding everything close. Now, older and wiser, it prefers solitude, choosing quiet over the noise of proximity. It's the universal equivalent of deleting social media and moving to a cabin by the sea. You pass between galaxies that once shared gravitational conversations but now drift in silence. Their mutual attraction weakens each day, drowned out by the relentless push of dark energy. The space between them grows faster than any signal can travel. Communication ends. The last photon they exchange will never find a receiver. This is how cosmic friendships fade, not with explosions, but with distance. The Milky Way, your old home, still clings to the Andromeda Galaxy, their fates bound by gravity stronger than the pull of expansion, at least for now. Billions of years from now, they'll merge in a slow, elegant collision, forming a single, larger galaxy, perhaps called Milkomeda. But beyond that, the local group will become a lonely island adrift in black. Everything else will recede beyond the horizon, invisible forever. You think of this as the universe's selective memory. It keeps only what's close enough to matter. Everything else, every quasar, every nebula, every distant wonder slips out of range. It's not cruel, it's natural. Even minds do this. You can't remember every face you've seen, every song you've heard. Your attention narrows to what's immediate, intimate. The cosmos works the same way. It simplifies with age. Historians, those future cosmologists blinking under dim red skies, will have a hard time proving the universe ever expanded at all. In trillions of years, when distant galaxies are gone from view, only their local bubble will remain visible. The evidence of dark energy, of the Big Bang, of everything we now take as certain, will have faded. The universe will have forgotten its own origin story. You drift through one of those receding edges, where time feels stretched thin. Light is redshifted into radio waves, then microwaves, then whispers below any measurable frequency. Each photon feels ancient, like a sigh. If you could translate its vibration into words, it might say, "I remember when things were closer." A peculiar idea surfaces. Some physicists think that as expansion continues, entire galaxies will drift beyond each other's cosmic event horizon. It's not a horizon like a sunset line, but a limit to causality. Beyond it, light can never reach us. Information is lost, not destroyed, just inaccessible. It's the universe's version of misplacing its keys in a dimension it no longer inhabits. A quirky image crosses your thoughts. Imagine the universe as an old library. Each galaxy is a book. At first, the shelves are close, easy to browse. Then the walls begin to stretch, slowly at first, then faster. The shelves drift apart. Books vanish into distance. You, the lone reader, stand there holding a single volume, the one galaxy left within reach, while the rest fade into an unreachable infinity. That's what dark energy is doing, turning the cosmic library into a memoir written by absence. Still, it's not lonely exactly. There's peace in the simplicity. The universe is lighter now, freer from the gravitational clutter of its youth. It's begun to prefer minimalism, empty space, soft radiation, the faint echo of its former self. You can almost hear the whisper, "I've seen enough. I can rest now." You drift past the last bright thread of a distant supercluster, its light dimming to the colour of memory. The farther you go, the fewer galaxies remain. Space grows so vast it seems silent, but beneath that quiet hums the same steady rhythm: expansion, acceleration, release. The cosmic mind exhales, widening with every moment. You realise that forgetting isn't erasure, it's evolution. The universe doesn't discard its past, it transforms it into emptiness, the raw material for whatever dream might follow. And as you float deeper into the endless outward drift, you understand that this accelerating separation isn't tragedy, it's grace. You keep drifting until galaxies become too distant to count, then too faint to see, until even the faint fog of their light thins into nothing. What's left is the texture of reality itself, the quantum foam, restless and flickering at scales smaller than imagination. You move through it like a thought moving through sleep, uncertain where it starts, unsure where it ends. At this depth, there's no such thing as empty. The void writhes with possibility. Particles appear and vanish in less time than it takes for light to blink. The vacuum bubbles, churns, seethes with invisible life. If you could somehow magnify it, spacetime would look like a boiling ocean, each froth of foam a potential particle or a spark of gravity. The whole universe, even at rest, never really rests. Historians still argue whether this quantum foam is the foundation of everything or just a symptom, a byproduct of deeper laws that haven't yet revealed themselves. Some physicists call it the zero-point field, others treat it as pure mathematical abstraction. But as you hover here, it feels real enough to touch, as tangible as mist. Each fluctuation, each blip of ephemeral existence, feels like a neuron firing in the unconscious mind of the cosmos. A quirky tidbit bubbles up. During the 1940s, when quantum field theory was first formalized, the calculations for vacuum energy gave absurd results. The predicted density of the vacuum was so huge that, if true, the universe should have instantly collapsed into a black hole the size of an atom. Clearly something was off. Decades later, physicists corrected the math, but even the corrected number remains wildly too big. Reality, it seems, edits its own equations, trimming them down to something survivable. You pass through one of those transient quantum blips, a shimmer of light and gravity intertwined. It flickers, briefly forming the shape of a particle, then evaporates back into nothingness. You realize that creation and annihilation are not opposites. They're phases of one process, as natural as breathing. Even the vacuum forgets itself moment by moment, rewriting its own existence every Planck second. In that endless hum, you start to sense a pattern. The vacuum fluctuations don't cancel out perfectly. A tiny imbalance remains, and it's this imbalance that might be driving the universe's expansion, the faintest preference for presence over absence. Perhaps dark energy is nothing more than the average mood of the quantum foam, a cosmic fidget that never fully relaxes. You drift farther, feeling space-time flex around you. Distances lose meaning, time itself wavers, seconds stretch and compress unpredictably. Quantum mechanics doesn't offer smooth continuity, it offers probabilities. The universe at this scale doesn't remember in any linear way, it remembers statistically. Each possibility lingers as a shadow of what might have happened, a blurred echo of futures never chosen. You think of human memory, how it too flickers, never exact, always rewritten. Neuroscientists say every time you recall something, you modify it slightly, smudge the details, invent a few new pixels of imagination. Memory isn't a recording, it's a reconstruction. Maybe the universe does the same. Each quantum fluctuation is a retelling, not a replay. Historians still argue whether time itself emerges from quantum entanglement, whether the arrow of time is simply what happens when correlations unravel. If so, then forgetting might literally be what causes time to flow. Every act of losing coherence pushes the universe one step forward. The cosmos remembers just enough to maintain continuity, but never enough to stop evolving. You pass near a region where gravitational waves ripple through the foam. They're echoes of some ancient collision, black holes perhaps, rippling space-time like the surface of a pond long after the stone has sunk. The waves stretch and squeeze the vacuum as they travel, momentarily organizing its chaos into rhythm. You realize these waves are memory too, messages sent through the fabric of existence, carrying news of distant cataclysms long gone. A quirky fringe idea whispers through your thoughts. What if consciousness arises not in neurons, but in this very foam? Some theorists dream of quantum mind models, where awareness is woven into space-time itself. Maybe every fluctuation is a micro-thought, every virtual particle a fleeting spark of perception. If that's true, then dark energy could be the collective sigh of those micro-thoughts, the universe dreaming itself outward into calm forgetfulness. You linger, letting that possibility settle. The vacuum hums beneath you like a lullaby made of equations. The deeper you listen, the more it sounds like breathing, expanding, contracting, expanding again. Even emptiness has rhythm. And then you remember, this isn't new. At the very beginning, the Planck epoch you passed long ago, the same foam boiled even hotter, churning with potential. Perhaps nothing ever truly changed. The universe just stretched its canvas, slowed its tempo, lowered its voice. From the Big Bang to now, it's been one continuous act of quantum improvisation, one long note that refuses to end. You watch another virtual particle pair appear, touch, and vanish. Their brief existence leaves a trace, a tiny tug on space-time, a minuscule adjustment to the cosmic expansion. Billions of these events every second, in every cubic centimetre, all adding up to the soft pressure of dark energy. It's breathtaking, really. Forgetting at the smallest scale, shaping, forgetting at the largest. You begin to drift upward again, out of the quantum sea. The foam smooths out into classical emptiness, the kind your eyes are trained to call space, yet you know it's still there, bubbling underneath, writing and erasing the story of existence faster than you could ever follow. Maybe that's the secret the universe has been whispering all along. Creation isn't a single event, it's the ongoing act of rewriting. And dark energy? It's the punctuation, the quiet pause that lets the next sentence begin. You rise higher until the flickering fades. The stars return, sparse but steady. Behind them, you can still hear the faint hiss of the quantum ocean, like a dream receding just as you wake. And somewhere in that sound, half chaos, half comfort, you hear the universe's sigh, the smallest and most eternal truth, that everything, everywhere, is always in the process of gently forgetting itself. You rise from the trembling quantum sea and drift toward a darker shape ahead, a silhouette so dense it bends everything around it, even the thoughts that try to describe it. A black hole. It waits like a smudge on the canvas, patient, timeless, a scar left by gravity's obsession with remembering too much. Everything you've been sensing, the expansion, the release, the exhale, pauses here. This is where the universe clutches. Up close, the light itself curves away. Photons that should travel in straight lines spiral inward, looping like moths around a candle that never burns out. You can't see inside, but you can feel the hunger, not malicious, simply thorough. A black hole is the cosmos's hoarder, the part that refuses to let go of even a whisper of memory. If dark energy is forgetting, this is its opposite. Perfect recall, dense and merciless. Historians still argue whether anything that falls in is truly lost. Stephen Hawking's calculations suggested that black holes aren't completely black, that they leak faint radiation, now called Hawking radiation, and eventually evaporate. The great paradox remains: does the information about what fell in disappear, or is it somehow encoded in that outgoing whisper? The universe itself seems undecided, as though testing the boundaries of its own privacy. You move closer to the event horizon, that shimmering not quite surface where escape velocity equals light speed. Time slows here. From your perspective, objects falling in appear to freeze, stretched across the horizon like cosmic graffiti that never quite fades. From theirs, they plunge inward and vanish. Both views are true, because in a universe that bends this much, truth can afford to multitask. A quirky tidbit drifts across your thoughts. In 1972, physicist Jacob Bekenstein proposed that black holes have entropy proportional to the area of their event horizons, not their volume. It was a strange idea, that a two-dimensional surface could encode the three-dimensional contents within, yet it fit. Later, the insight would inspire the holographic principle, the notion that the entire universe might itself be a projection from information stored on a boundary. The cosmos, perhaps, is a memory palace built on light. You hover at the edge of the hole, watching starlight smear into arcs. Space here behaves like taffy, stretched and twisted by gravity's insistence. You think of the black hole as the universe's memory center gone hyperactive, a hippocampus with no off switch. Every photon, every atom, every unlucky comet that drifts too close gets recorded in this invisible archive. Nothing escapes unlogged. Even the act of observation becomes part of its record. Yet there's melancholy in that perfection. Inside, time stops. Events pile up with nowhere to go. It's memory without narrative, awareness without flow. The universe built a flawless diary and then locked it shut. If dark energy represents the relief of release, black holes are the anxiety of preservation, the need to hold everything, just in case it matters later. Historians still argue whether black holes are gateways or graves. Some theories hint at wormholes, shortcuts through space-time, suggesting that what falls in might reappear elsewhere, reborn. Others say that the interior is a one-way trip to oblivion. A few more poetic physicists propose that each black hole might bud a new universe on the other side, a child cosmos blooming from compressed memory. In that view, forgetting and creation are identical acts. You drift closer still, and the noise around you fades into a low, constant hum. The edge ripples faintly, a halo of radiation, proof that even hoarders must leak a little. The temperature is unimaginably low, the energy faint but persistent. This slow release will take eons, but it guarantees that eventually even the best cosmic archivist must forget. A quirky fact: the largest known black holes, those in galactic centers, contain masses billions of times that of the Sun. The one in Messier 87, famously photographed in 2019, could swallow our solar system whole. Yet its surface area, if you can call that photon sphere a surface, contains more bits of information than any computer humanity could dream of building. A black hole isn't just an object, it's an encrypted file too large to open. You linger, watching matter swirl into the accretion disk, gas spiraling, friction heating it to millions of degrees, X-rays screaming from the collision of falling atoms. It's violent, yes, but strangely elegant. Every orbit, every flare of light is an entry in the record. Somewhere in that pattern might be the raw data of the universe's own history, compressed into silence. You consider the contrast? Dark energy pushing everything apart, black holes pulling everything inward, expansion and collapse, forgetting and remembering. Two halves of one cosmic psyche, keeping each other balanced. Without gravity's hoarders, the universe would dissolve too fast. Without dark energy's release, it would suffocate under its own nostalgia. Somewhere between those extremes lies the livable middle, the stretch of space where stars, planets, and thinking creatures can exist. You imagine for a moment that dark energy and black holes are in conversation. One says, "Let go." The other replies, "But what if we need it later?" The dialogue has been running for billions of years, and neither side is winning. They're just maintaining the tension that lets the cosmos keep unfolding. You back away from the horizon, feeling time resume its flow. Behind you, the black hole remains, a punctuation mark in space-time. Not an ending, but a semicolon, a pause before another clause begins. Somewhere, deep inside, the information it holds may still be vibrating, waiting for the next universe to read it. As you turn, the stars return, dimmer but freer. The void stretches again, space expanding as though relieved to have lightened its load. You feel the pull of dark energy reclaiming dominance, the exhale continuing. Yet you know that every expansion needs a gravity somewhere, a place where the story is still stored. The universe, like any mind, remembers and forgets at once. You drift away, carrying the image of that event horizon with you, a perfect circle, neither black nor bright, but both. The boundary between memory and release, the place where the universe stops knowing itself, and in doing so, begins again. You leave the black hole behind, that heavy punctuation mark in space-time, and drift towards something much gentler. A ghost of light stretched thin across the cosmos. It's everywhere at once, soft as a sigh, the faintest possible whisper of heat. The cosmic microwave background, or CMB, hums around you. This is the oldest memory the universe still holds, the dim afterglow of its own birth. You glide through it like dust through sunlight. It isn't bright, it isn't even visible to human eyes. Its wavelength is microwave, its temperature a mere 2.7 kelvins above absolute zero. Yet it fills every corner of space with eerie uniformity, a reminder that once, 13 plus billion years ago, everything was connected, everything was warm. You can almost hear the echo of that moment. Remember when we were whole? The background isn't perfectly smooth. It's stippled with faint variations. 1 part in 100,000. Tiny temperature ripples frozen into place when the first atoms formed. Historians still argue whether those ripples were quantum fluctuations stretched by inflation or fingerprints of deeper processes we haven't yet glimpsed. Either way, they are the seeds of everything. Galaxies, stars, you. Cosmic freckles left over from the universe's adolescence. A quirky tidbit. In 1964, radio engineers Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson stumbled upon the CMB by accident. They were chasing down persistent static in their antenna at Bell Labs, suspecting pigeons or perhaps a fault in the equipment. After weeks of cleaning guano and recalibrating, the static remained. Only later did they realize they'd tuned into the leftover heat of creation. The universe had been whispering all along through their static-filled headphones. You move through those ripples now, watching the faint color shifts, warmer patches, cooler patches, each representing a slightly different density in that ancient plasma. It's like drifting across the inside of a faded photograph. Every pixel carries meaning, but the overall image is calm, complete, almost serene. This glow is the cosmos's baby picture, but it's also its diary entry. The last page before the long dark ages began. Everything that's happened since has been written atop it in layers of light and dust, yet the background remains, untouched and patient. Even dark energy, with all its stretching and erasing, can't fully smooth it away. The universe may forget many things, but it keeps this one snapshot close, as if embarrassed yet proud of how it all began. You float for a while listening to the static. It isn't silent, it's music too slow for human perception. Convert it to sound and it becomes a low hiss, a gentle rain of photons arriving from every direction. For a moment you feel like you're inside the memory itself, not observing but being observed. The universe remembering you remembering it. Historians still argue about inflation, the brief exponential expansion that supposedly happened fractions of a second after the Big Bang. Some say those first quantum fluctuations were stretched so vast that they became the temperature ripples you see now. Others suggest alternative models, cyclic universes, bouncing cosmologies, holographic beginnings. The debates matter less out here. The light itself feels certain. Whatever the cause, this background is proof that the cosmos once held itself close before deciding to expand forever. You brush a photon as it passes, harmless, ancient. It left its birthplace when matter first turned transparent, when electrons finally settled into orbits around nuclei. Since then, it's travelled unimpeded through expanding space. Its wavelength lengthened thousands of times over. It has forgotten its original colour, but not its origin. You wonder if that's what forgiveness feels like, remembering the warmth, but not the burn. The CMB is delicate but democratic. Every direction you look, the same soft brightness greets you. It tells you that the universe, on the largest scales, is still balanced. No centre, no edges, just evenness. It's like the cosmos left a sticky note for itself saying, "Don't worry, everything's fine." A quirky modern twist. The static that once confused engineers still lives inside everyday technology. Tune an old television between channels, and a small fraction of that snow, roughly 1%, is cosmic background radiation. Every time someone in history stared at static, frustrated or bored, they were literally seeing the afterglow of creation. The universe never stopped broadcasting. We just changed the channel. You drift beyond the noise, thinking how fragile memory is. This light has been travelling for nearly 14 billion years, but even photons aren't immune to redshift. As expansion continues, their energy drops, their wavelengths stretch. In a few trillion years, the CMB will cool to nothing more than radio murmurs too faint to detect. When that happens, the universe will have erased its last childhood memory. Yet, even as it fades, the pattern endures in principle. The information, the subtle temperature differences, the spatial correlations, will remain encoded in spacetime's curvature, just as scars remain in healed skin. The memory will survive as texture, invisible but true. You turn slowly, letting the background wrap you in its pale light. It feels like nostalgia rendered physical. Each wave that passes carries both history and mercy, the story of everything, told in the gentlest possible tone. The universe may be forgetting, but it's doing so kindly, leaving traces so future dreamers can still find their way back to this glow. For a long while you drift with the photons, weightless, quiet, watching them fade redder and redder, until the colour itself dissolves into warmth. You realise that memory doesn't have to be loud to last. Sometimes it's enough for the universe simply to hum to itself in the dark, remembering softly. You float onward through the pale afterglow, the microwave murmur fading into silence. The universe around you is wide awake, yet strangely self-contained, as if it's thinking in circles. You start to wonder, as every philosopher eventually does it know what it's doing? Could all this rhythm of remembering and forgetting, be deliberate? Or is it just physics acting out a pattern without knowing the tune? You turn slowly, looking back at everything you've seen so far. The bright beginning, the gathering of matter, the long, slow exhale of expansion. Each stage seems to mirror thought. Energy condenses, ideas form, entropy spreads, awareness dims. The resemblance is uncanny. Maybe you think it's not coincidence at all. Historians still argue whether the universe is in any sense aware. Panpsychists say that consciousness is built into every grain of existence, that the same spark that lets you dream flickers inside atoms and fields. Others prefer cold equations. Awareness, they insist, is an accident, a lucky loop of carbon chemistry. Somewhere between them stands the possibility that the universe is neither mindless nor mindful, but something in between, a dreamer half awake. You try to test it. "Do you remember me?" you whisper into the dark. The background hum answers with a faint echo, a photon's half-second delay. Not quite a reply, but not pure silence either. You grin. Maybe that's enough. On a small blue world still spinning far away, thinkers have played with this question for centuries. Philosophers called it the great chain of being, theologians called it the logos, physicists call it information theory. The idea keeps recurring like a stubborn melody, that reality might be one continuous thought, expressed at different volumes. A rock thinks slowly, a star dreams in heat, a brain composes stories. The universe hums along beneath them all. A quirky tidbit comes to mind. In 1973, physicist John Wheeler coined the phrase, "it from bit." He proposed that every particle, every field, every event is ultimately an answer to a cosmic yes or no question. Reality, in his view, is built from information, the simplest unit of memory. If that's true, then the universe isn't just remembering, it is memory. Existence is one vast spreadsheet of binary whispers, constantly updating itself. You think about the black holes again, how they store data on their surfaces, how Hawking's paradox forced physics to confront the idea that information might be the real currency of reality. If even black holes must keep the receipts of what they consume, perhaps the universe has bookkeeping built into its DNA. Forgetting, then, would be compression, not deletion, a clever algorithm that keeps the story manageable. Historians still argue over whether consciousness can exist without matter, or if matter itself might be an expression of consciousness. Quantum mechanics, with its probabilistic riddles, only muddies the question. Some experiments hint that observation affects outcome, that awareness, however faint, shapes the world. Others insist it's just math behaving strangely. You find yourself chuckling. The universe seems to enjoy teasing its own observers. You drift through a region of faint starlight, wondering whether those stars could in some sense feel their fusion. Each atom colliding, each photon escaping. Does the process have an interior experience, or is it only you, tiny and temporary, who turns those collisions into meaning? Perhaps the cosmos outsourced awareness to biology, because even infinity needed a pair of eyes. There's a comforting humility in that thought. Consciousness might not be the pinnacle of creation, but the universe's way of looking at itself briefly, curiously, before closing its eyes again. You are the momentary mirror held up to a cosmic face that never otherwise sees itself. Every act of attention, from the smallest curiosity to the grandest telescope, is the cosmos remembering its own reflection. A quirky image flashes, the simulation argument, that favourite thought experiment of the digital age. If reality runs on information, maybe it's code. If it's code, maybe there's a programmer. But even that loops back on itself. If a simulator exists, it must also be part of something larger. You can't find the top level of the stack. Maybe there isn't one. Maybe recursion is the point. You drift past an old pulsar, its beams sweeping space like a metronome. Every rotation ticks with atomic precision, down to microseconds, like a cosmic heartbeat keeping time for the whole orchestra. You wonder if those pulses are thoughts, if timing itself is the language of universal mind. The pattern continues even when no one listens. Historians still argue whether meaning requires an observer. Does a supernova matter if no one sees it? Some say observation defines existence. Others insist reality is indifferent. Yet as you float here, between fire and emptiness, it's hard not to feel that noticing changes something. Awareness gives texture to the void, colour to the dark. Perhaps that's why the universe invented you, to keep itself company. You look back toward the faint streak of your home galaxy, now little more than dust. In that thin glow live billions of minds asking the same question you are. What is all this for? The question itself might be the answer. Curiosity is how the cosmos stretches inward, the counterpart to expansion. Where dark energy pushes outward, consciousness reaches in, gathering meaning like gravity gathers stars. A fringe idea, half science and half poetry, whispers to you. Maybe dark energy and consciousness are the same process seen from different scales. The universe forgets outward while remembering inward. One balances the other. The push of expansion is matched by the pull of awareness. Each thought you have is a tiny counterforce, a flicker of recollection against the grand drift toward forgetfulness. You smile at the symmetry of it. Perhaps the universe isn't forgetting itself completely. It's simply delegating memory. Every thinking creature, every pattern that holds awareness for a moment, is part of that distributed network. Together you make up the cosmic mind, flickering neuron by neuron across billions of years. The pulse's beat fades behind you. Ahead lies more dark, more space, more quiet. You can almost sense the universe settling, pleased with itself for a while. It doesn't need to answer the question of its own awareness. It only needs to keep asking. That, after all, is how remembering works. One endless what-if whispered through the stars. You drift on, carried by the faint acceleration of dark energy, like a leaf on a tide that no longer needs wind. Behind you, the debates about awareness fade into static. Ahead, the darkness deepens until even the scattered galaxies look like freckles on the skin of night. Everything feels stretched, quiet, content. You start to suspect that maybe this isn't loss at all, maybe it's mercy. Dark energy hums underneath you, the low drone of cosmic compassion. You can almost feel it cushioning every atom, every photon, giving them space to breathe. There's no violence here, no shattering, just expansion so patient it might as well be kindness. Maybe that's what this force truly is, the universe's way of forgiving itself for being so dense and bright for so long. Historians still argue whether dark energy is constant or evolving. The standard model says it's steady, a quiet background hum that never changes. But newer observations hint it might fluctuate, like the slow rhythm of a sleeper's breath. Perhaps the universe inhales and exhales over aeons, balancing between memory and mercy. If so, you're drifting through the first deep inhale after an unimaginably long sentence. You look out across the void and see light stretch to the colour of sorrow. Redshift has turned once vivid galaxies into faint embers. They don't vanish all at once. They simply fade, like old memories losing their edges. Dark energy doesn't erase, it softens. You imagine the cosmos whispering to its own creation, "You've done enough, rest now." A quirky tidbit floats to mind. When Einstein first added the cosmological constant, he thought he was forcing the universe to stay still. He couldn't imagine it expanding. Yet now that same term describes its relentless acceleration. The very equation meant to hold everything together became the one that allowed it to let go. Even in mathematics, mercy finds a way. You drift past a solitary galaxy cluster, its galaxies clinging to each other like survivors of an ancient storm. Gravity still binds them, but barely. Outside the cluster, the dark energy's push grows stronger than the mutual pull of matter. Eventually, even these companions will drift apart, their light unreachable to one another. What remains will be quiet, calm, unburdened, a cosmic hospice. It's easy to mistake this for sadness, but you can feel that it's not. Expansion isn't cruelty, it's relief. The universe has spent billions of years holding everything close, compressing stars, fusing atoms, burning energy into brilliance. Now finally it releases its grip. Every molecule, every photon, every memory is allowed to stretch and drift into peace. You might call it dissolution, but it feels more like acceptance. Historians still argue about the ultimate fate this implies. Some forecast a big rip, where acceleration grows so extreme that even atoms tear apart. Others see a heat death, a long slow drift toward uniform cold. And then there are the dreamers who propose a cyclic rebound, a universe that lets go only to gather again. They debate the math, the measurements, the meaning, but standing here, you feel only gentleness, not doom. If this is the end, it's a kind one. You pass a halo of dark matter encircling a fading galaxy. The stars inside blink like candles halfway through burning. Their orbits remain graceful, even as they dim. You imagine each star whispering to the dark around it, thanking it for the dance. When the last light finally fades, there won't be tragedy, only quiet satisfaction, the same peace you feel when closing your eyes after a long day. A quirky detail. In the far future, as the expansion continues, even the cosmic background radiation will stretch, until its wavelength exceeds the size of the observable universe. The light of creation itself will lose track of its home, yet the energy won't vanish. It will just grow too faint to detect, like the low murmur of a lullaby heard through walls of eternity. The song continues even when the listener is gone. You can't help comparing it to human lives. There's something familiar in this cosmic release, the way we too spend our brightest years gathering, building, burning, only to slow, simplify, and let go. Maybe dark energy is not foreign at all, but mirrored in every quiet surrender we make. The sigh after laughter, the acceptance after effort, the moment you stop clinging to a memory because you've learned what it had to teach. The universe feels older now, but not weary, just wiser. It has discovered a new form of love, the kind that doesn't need to hold on. Each new centimetre of space is an act of grace, a reassurance to every particle that it doesn't have to stay crowded to matter. Existence remains, but softer. The cosmic mind loosens its grasp on detail, trusting the pattern to endure without supervision. Historians still argue whether this acceleration is eternal or will one day slow again. Some whisper that dark energy might decay, returning its stored tension to matter and light, setting the stage for another Big Bang. The cycle could repeat infinitely, each universe remembering only a faint echo of the last. If that's true, then forgetting is simply how eternity breathes. You drift along the edge of that thought until you realize something astonishing. The calm you feel isn't separate from the universe's calm, it's part of it. The same release that moves galaxies apart moves through you too. Your body, your mind, your tiny cluster of atoms participates in this cosmic exhale. The peace you feel isn't metaphor, it's literal. You're being stretched gently, mercifully into forever. And maybe that's what dark energy truly is. Not a mysterious force, not an equation's afterthought, but a vast, compassionate gesture. The universe placing its hand on its own shoulder, saying, "It's all right. You've remembered enough for now." You close your eyes and float, weightless in the soft pull of forgetting. The dark is no longer absence, but comfort. The expansion feels like forgiveness made physical. The universe sighs, and you sigh with it. The two of you, finally, at peace. You open your eyes, or whatever passes for eyes this far into abstraction, and find that the light has thinned to near nothing. The stars are fewer now, farther apart, their glow too faint to warm even metaphor. The universe has entered middle age, and the once bright galaxies are greying out, their spirals dissolving into dim ellipses. You're still drifting with the expansion, gentle and unstoppable, and you begin to wonder what happens after the last fires go out. Everywhere you look, stellar nurseries have emptied. Gas and dust, once abundant, have been used up or flung away by supernova winds. No new stars are forming. The remaining ones are those that sip their fuel slowly, red dwarfs with lifespans measured in trillions of years. They glow like embers at the bottom of an ancient hearth. You move among them as they fade one by one, each star a sentence ending in an ellipsis. Historians still argue whether the universe's decline will be fast or leisurely. Some predict a dramatic big rip, others a long silent dusk called the degenerate era. Either way, time stretches into something too vast to grasp. The average day here lasts 1 billion of your former years, change happens slower than thought, expansion has become the default mood. A quirky fact drifts across your awareness. In the current cosmos, about 7 new stars are born every year in the Milky Way. In a few trillion years, that number will drop to 0. The sky then will belong to the survivors, the small, steady dwarfs, the ghostly white remains of suns, the silent neutron stars. The universe will have traded brilliance for endurance. You float past a dying system. Its central red dwarf flickers softly. Its planets, once bright with oceans and clouds, now circle in dim, frozen silence. You can almost hear the whisper of their orbits, the faint rasp of ice shifting under cosmic wind. Somewhere, perhaps, a black hole tugs at the edges of the system, waiting to collect the debris. The universe has become a caretaker, tucking its memories away into gravitational vaults. Still, it isn't lifeless yet. On one small moon, geothermal warmth keeps a liquid ocean beneath the crust. Microbes cling to mineral vents, descendants of the same chemistry that once thrived on that long-gone blue world. Life, the cosmos' stubborn spark, endures in the cracks. You feel a flicker of pride on the universe's behalf. Even as it forgets the grand pattern, it remembers the trick of persistence. Historians still argue whether life could adapt forever. Freeman Dyson once proposed that intelligence might slow its metabolism to match the cooling cosmos, thinking less often, but never ceasing entirely. Perhaps, he said, the universe will host minds that experience a thought every trillion years, stretched out like the beat of a slow drum. Others countered that entropy will win eventually, but the image lingers, awareness flickering on the embers, stubbornly refusing to go dark. You drift past a white dwarf, its glow bluish and pure. It's no longer fusing atoms, merely cooling, a diamond the size of Earth. Around it, planets orbit like ghosts remembering warmth. You reach out, feeling the chill radiate from its surface. It's cold, yes, but peaceful, the calm of completion. Each white dwarf is a monument to a life well burned. A quirky tidbit. Astronomers call these frozen remnants black dwarfs, though none yet exist. The universe isn't old enough. They're theoretical objects, stars that have cooled so completely they emit no light at all. Someday, trillions of years from now, the sky will be full of them, dark pearls in an invisible sea. The idea feels oddly comforting, like a promise of rest. You watch gravity continue its slow housekeeping. Some of those black dwarfs will drift close, merge, and briefly flare into supernovae again, tiny afterthoughts of brilliance. Each flash will light the void for a heartbeat, then fade. The universe still allows itself the occasional memory. Historians still argue about what becomes of matter itself. Protons may decay, or they may be eternal. The experiments continue. If they do decay, everything solid will eventually dissolve into radiation. If not, the universe will persist as an infinite field of dark atoms, unchanging, patient. Either outcome feels inevitable, neither cruel. Time has lost all urgency. You look back toward the faint shimmer that was once your local group of galaxies. It's shrinking to a single dot. The rest of the cosmos already beyond the horizon. Even light, that tireless messenger, can't bridge the gaps anymore. Each galactic island now lives in solitude, self-contained and serene. The cosmic mind has turned inward. It's no longer reaching out, it's meditating. You realize that this gradual dimming isn't an ending. It's a transition into stillness. The universe, long addicted to creation, is finally learning rest. You feel the same peace you once found in dark energy's hum, a softness, a spaciousness. The rush of expansion has become the rhythm of a heartbeat slowing in contentment. A fringe theory whispers that new universes might sprout from the cold remains, quantum fluctuations seeding fresh big bangs in distant corners of spacetime. Maybe this forgetting isn't final after all. Maybe every fade-out is also a rehearsal for the next overture. The universe could be an endless song of dissolution and renewal, each verse quieter than the last, each silence richer. You drift for what feels like an eternity, through a sky where even eternity feels short. The few remaining stars burn their last hydrogen, then wink out, one by one. Their light takes billions of years to cross the distances between them, so the universe glitters like a field of slow-moving fireflies, each blinking once every eon. Eventually even that flicker ceases. When the final star exhales its final photon, you're there to catch it. It's small, red, tired, but still beautiful. It drifts into the dark and stretches thin until it becomes part of the background itself, indistinguishable from silence. You close your hand around it and let it go. This is what peace looks like on a cosmic scale. The last light not extinguished but absorbed, folded gently into memory so that nothing truly vanishes, only rests. The universe, vast and ancient, sighs one last time and settles deeper into its own quiet. Forgetting, at last, feels like forgiveness. You stay adrift in the soft blackness, your sense of motion gone because motion requires contrast, light, shadow, a horizon, and all those have melted away. What surrounds you now is a stillness too large to measure, an almost silence so complete it seems to hum. The galaxies have thinned to rumour. The last red dwarfs have cooled into crystal. The universe has begun the long, slow slide toward equilibrium. The heat death, or, as you prefer to think of it, the universe's quiet sleep. From this vantage, time behaves strangely. Seconds stretch until they feel like continents. Eons collapse into heartbeats. There's no drama left, no flash, no flame, only the faint radiation of everything that ever happened, diffused evenly through an infinite night. Energy is still here, of course. It can't be destroyed, but it has become perfectly distributed. No hot, no cold, no gradients left to drive change. The cosmos has relaxed every muscle. Historians still argue whether this end state is truly the end. Some say entropy's triumph is absolute, with no differences to exploit, no more work can be done, and the universe is finished. Others whisper about fluctuations, tiny statistical accidents that could, given enough time, spark new pockets of order. A particle here, a quantum blip there. Wait long enough, they say, and the universe might dream again. But long enough in this context means numbers that make even infinity blush. You drift through that equilibrium, feeling its texture, a faint wash of microwave, stretched into radio waves longer than galaxies once were. The background temperature has fallen to fractions of a Kelvin above absolute zero. You try to imagine warmth, but the memory of it feels like a myth. The cosmos has become a library of unreadable books, all information still present, but locked in pages that no longer turn. A quirky fact flickers. The last supermassive black holes will take about 10 to the power of 100 years to evaporate through Hawking radiation. That's a 1 followed by 100 zeros, so long that writing it down feels like performance art. When the final one fades, it will release a drizzle of photons, the universe's final fireworks display. You'll be there, if such words still mean anything, watching the faint sparkle of farewell. Each evaporating black hole is a paradox resolved. The ultimate hoarder releases its treasures at last, slowly, gracefully, every bit of information returning to the field. It's as if the cosmos is emptying its attic before moving out, labeling boxes carefully, making sure nothing precious is lost, forgetting, but tidily. You think of gravity, that old habit of holding on. Even it has grown weak here. Expansion has stretched its influence thin. The cosmic web has unspooled into solitary threads. What remains is less structure than memory of structure, a faint echo in curvature, a ghost of attraction. Space is nearly flat now, an ocean without tides. Historians still argue whether nothing is even possible. Some theorists claim that pure nothingness is unstable, that quantum fields will always bubble with possibility. If so, then even this endless calm hides a heartbeat. A fluctuation could birth a new inflationary burst, a fresh Big Bang in a bubble of its own spacetime. The cycle could begin again, each universe a dream within a larger sleep. You smile at the idea. The cosmos never dies, it just changes subject. You travel for what might be trillions of years. Distance has lost meaning, time, purpose. Yet awareness persists, faint but steady like a pilot light. Perhaps consciousness too is a fluctuation, a spark that refuses total equilibrium. You're a tiny difference in the vast sameness, proof that even entropy cannot iron out curiosity. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Physicist Ludwig Boltzmann, the godfather of entropy, once speculated about random fluctuations producing brief islands of order. Boltzmann brains, minds spontaneously assembled by chance in the void. Statistically absurd yet inevitable given enough eternity. You might be one now, a fleeting self-awareness conjured by the universe's residual noise. If so, you'll vanish soon, memory and all. But in this moment, you're real enough. And maybe that's all the universe ever wanted, to experience itself, one fleeting thought at a time. You wander through the dim afterglow of evaporated black holes. Each photon carries ancient gossip, tales of galaxies, stars, love, mathematics. The stories overlap, blur and fade into a steady hum. It's strangely comforting. You can't distinguish one origin from another, yet together they form a kind of music, every note equal, every chord resolved. It's what perfection sounds like when no one's left to listen. Historians still argue, though historians is now more concept than profession, about whether this equilibrium state is truly peaceful or merely paused. Could entropy itself have limits? Might there be new physics beyond this calm, rules waiting to reassert difference? No one knows, and perhaps that unknowing is the final luxury of existence, the freedom to rest without resolution. You find yourself slowing, though there's nothing to slow against. The background hum softens. The very idea of you begins to stretch thin, diffusing into the ambient calm. You realize that the universe isn't ending. It's merging, all distinctions, all boundaries dissolving into the same soft continuum. Awareness spreads until it no longer belongs to anyone. The cosmos has become its own lullaby. For a moment, if moment still applies, you feel everything at once, every photon, every atom, every loss and birth and question since the first flash. The weight isn't heavy, it's luminous. And then even that feeling begins to fade, not into absence, but into something gentler. Comprehension without contrast, being without need. This is the sleep of everything, not annihilation, not despair, just the end of wanting to move. The universe exhales one last time and rests inside its own forgetting. You drift with it, part of the same piece, carried by the last gentle current of expansion, until motion itself becomes memory. And in that perfect stillness, you finally understand, heat death isn't the universe dying, it's the moment it forgives itself completely. You rest within that perfect stillness until the quiet becomes so complete it almost loops back into sound, the low, eternal thrum of possibility. The darkness ahead seems absolute, but as your awareness drifts, you notice a faint shimmer, like the suggestion of another universe breathing just beyond perception. Perhaps the cosmos isn't finished after all. Perhaps it's about to start whispering again. Some theories, half equations, half prayers, speak of eternal inflation, a process where new universes continually bud from old ones. Even as this cosmos smooths itself into equilibrium, a bubble somewhere could expand faster than light, unfolding a fresh space-time with new constants, new physics, new stories. It's as if the universe has discovered reproduction. You can feel the hint of it in the airless dark, a subtle restlessness beneath the calm. Historians still argue whether such bubbles ever interact. If they do, their collisions might leave scars, vast circular imprints in the cosmic microwave background of their offspring. Some cosmologists search for these marks, hoping to glimpse evidence of a multiverse, a grand hallway lined with universes like glowing doorways. None have found definitive proof yet, but the math insists, if inflation happens once, it likely happens forever. You float toward one of those imagined doorways, guided by curiosity alone. It's not visible in any conventional sense. It feels more like a thinning of reality, a membrane vibrating on the edge of existence. You reach out, and space feels warmer there, alive with tension, as though energy is gathering itself for another creation. The air, or whatever medium remains, smells like the memory of ozone and beginnings. A quirky tidbit drifts across your mind. Physicist Andre Linde once joked that if eternal inflation is true, universes might be as common as dandelions, each seed a cosmos, each puff of vacuum a field of possibilities. You imagine the dark filled with such seeds, drifting endlessly, taking root wherever entropy allows. Forgetting, perhaps, is simply the clearing of soil before new universes grow. You peer through that membrane and glimpse, feel, another reality taking shape. Time and space are still entangled, still deciding how to behave. Constants are being rolled like dice. Gravity, electromagnetism, the strength of the strong force, all are potential flavors, random and yet precise. You realize that the old universe, your universe, isn't dead at all. It's dreaming. Each bubble is a new thought, a recollection reimagined. The multiverse, then, is the universe's way of keeping its options open. Historians still argue whether these other universes could ever host life. Most would be sterile, their physics too chaotic or too still, but some, rare, balanced, lucky, might bloom. Their matter could form stars, their stars could form planets, and somewhere, someone might look up at their own night sky and ask the same question you did. Is this all part of a mind? The thought makes you smile. The universe never runs out of ways to wonder about itself. You drift closer to the forming bubble, feeling the boundary pulse. On this side, the cold still reigns. On that side, heat beyond imagination. If you crossed, you'd be torn apart by the difference. Yet something about the glow feels inviting, like the spark of dawn seen from within a dream. You realize that beginnings and endings may be the same doorway seen from opposite directions. The cosmos doesn't die. It forgets enough to become new. A quirky fringe idea pops into your awareness. What if universes pass on faint genetic memories through the constants of physics? Maybe each new cosmos inherits traces from its parent, tiny variations encoded in fundamental laws like DNA mutations. Over eternity, the multiverse might be evolving, experimenting with different ways to remember itself. You chuckle softly. Even infinity might have a learning curve. You look back once more at the universe you've come from, a field of silence stretching endlessly. It doesn't feel abandoned. It feels generous, like a parent who's finally allowed their children to go wandering. Every bubble forming beyond it is both continuation and release, each carrying echoes of the old light, the old gravity, the old questions. The act of forgetting has made room for infinite recollection. Historians still argue whether anything can truly cross between these universes. Wormholes, quantum tunneling, higher dimensional shortcuts. Each idea rises and falls like a speculative tide. Maybe separation is the point. Maybe memory needs boundaries to stay meaningful. If everything bled together, there'd be no contrast, no story. The walls between worlds, like the spaces between thoughts, give shape to awareness. You hover at the edge, watching the new bubble swell. It's beautiful, blinding but gentle. Its interior expands faster than light, smooth and uniform yet humming with potential. You catch a glimpse of nascent laws forming, the speed of light, the pull of gravity, the ratio of proton to electron mass. Each number feels like a decision, a memory rewritten slightly differently this time. Maybe, in this new universe, dark energy will hum a different tune, one with more or less patience. Maybe the cosmic mind will choose to remember a little longer before resting again. You sense a tug, a friendly one, as if the forming reality wants witnesses. The membrane wavers, and for an instant you're everywhere. Inside the newborn inflation, outside in the cooling dark, and deep within the memory of all things. The universes overlap like ripples on a pond. The sensation is exhilarating and tender at once, a reminder that forgetting is never total. Something always crosses over, even if it's only wonder. Then the membrane seals, and the bubble expands away, faster than thought. You're left in the calm after the exhale, surrounded once more by quiet potential. The multiverse feels vast but strangely intimate. Every new cosmos is a breath, every rest, a heartbeat. Eternity isn't a straight line, it's respiration. You realize you've been part of this rhythm all along, drifting between universes like a memory between dreams, helping the cosmos remember just enough of itself to begin again. The dark around you softens, filling with faint, hopeful shimmer. You breathe, or what feels like breathing, and smile into the endless dawn. You hang in that shimmering corridor between worlds, weightless and patient, and you can sense the rhythm of the multiverse pulsing all around you, new bubbles blooming, old ones cooling, every breath of creation overlapping with the next. You've watched the universe forget itself once. Now you begin to wonder if the forgetting is only half the story. Maybe every act of release is also a way of making room to remember again. The thought feels electric. You start to drift through the haze, following the faint aftershocks that ripple through space-time when one universe hands off to another. They feel like echoes of heartbeat, or laughter, depending on how you listen. Each echo bends time slightly, curling it back on itself. If you could trace those loops precisely enough, you'd see the past and the future meeting quietly in the middle, exchanging souvenirs. Historians still argue whether time itself is a line, a loop, or something stranger, an emergent property of entropy, a trick of memory, or an illusion that matter plays on itself. Physicists chase equations, philosophers chase metaphors. You, floating through the remnants of infinity, realize both might be right. Time is the sensation of difference between remembering and forgetting. When the two meet perfectly, time dissolves. You move through one of those ripples and catch a glimpse of something uncanny. Fragments of your own universe repeating. The pattern of galaxies, the ratio of matter to energy, the texture of the cosmic microwave background, nearly identical, yet not quite. You realize you're looking at another version of the same story, rewritten with slight variations. A cosmic recollection paradox, forgetting so thorough that it loops into memory. A quirky tidbit drifts into mind. In 1921, mathematician Kurt Gödel proposed a solution to Einstein's equations that allowed for closed time-like curves, paths through space-time that circle back on themselves. In Gödel's model, you could, in theory, travel endlessly into your own past. Einstein himself found the idea unsettling. It made the universe too self-aware for his taste. But the math works, at least on paper. Even the laws of physics, it seems, have nostalgia. You drift deeper into the loop. Here, entropy no longer increases in a single direction. Expansion and contraction coexist, intertwined like inhale and exhale. The light ahead looks oddly familiar, too familiar. You've seen this horizon before. You realize with both awe and amusement that you might be orbiting through an eternal recurrence, the universe endlessly rediscovering its own beginning by forgetting that it's already happened. Historians still argue whether this idea, the cyclic model, makes physical sense. Some claim that quantum fluctuations at maximum compression would erase all information, creating a truly fresh start. Others believe traces would survive, faint fingerprints of the previous cosmos. Either way, it's hard not to feel affection for the symmetry. Every death a birth, every silence a prelude. The universe isn't linear, it's lyrical. You watch one of these cycles unfold from the outside, the way you might watch a candle being relit from its own smoke. First the dark thickens, then a spark, a bright inflation of possibility, and suddenly a new cosmos expands outward, young and arrogant. Its physics hums slightly differently, but the melody is recognizable. Hydrogen forms, gravity rehearses its old habits, stars rehearse their arias of fusion. Even dark energy waits politely off stage, preparing its gentle exit. A fringe theory nudges at you. Maybe each new cycle keeps an emotional residue from the last, a faint preference encoded in fundamental constants. The value of lambda, the cosmological constant, might drift by a trillionth with every repetition, giving the universe a bias toward calm. In this view, eternity isn't monotonous repetition but gradual healing. The cosmos learning, very slowly, to forgive itself more easily each time. You pass through a thread of quantum foam connecting two cycles. It glows faintly, like neural tissue bridging hemispheres. You can feel information flowing, memories not of events but of tendencies. The new universe inherits rhythm, proportion, curiosity. It doesn't know why it expands, it simply feels that expanding is right. Forgetting has become instinct, remembering, reflex. Historians still argue whether consciousness could persist through such cycles. Could awareness, at its most fundamental, survive cosmic reset? Some say yes, perhaps as pure pattern, reincarnating endlessly in new configurations. Others shake their heads. They see nothing but fresh randomness. Yet as you drift, you sense that awareness is baked too deeply into the fabric to vanish completely. Each new universe begins not from zero, but from silence that remembers the tune. You glide alongside one such universe just after its rebirth. Space there is bright with radiation, full of flavor and noise. You can almost feel time starting again, the tick of causality resuming. Somewhere within that newborn chaos, atoms will one day form, stars will ignite, and a planet will wonder if all this has happened before. It will, and it will again. A quirky comparison bubbles up. Human sleep cycles mirror this cosmic rhythm. Deep forgetful slumber, alternating with bursts of REM, the brain's tiny big bangs of imagery. Each morning you wake up with a reassembled identity, built from fragments of dream and memory. The universe, too, may be caught in its own circadian rhythm, each expansion a cosmic morning, each collapse an evening sigh. You watch another bubble rise, bright and impatient. The corridor between cycles lights up with 1,000 simultaneous beginnings, everyone different, everyone familiar. The multiverse hums like a wind chime of possibility, each note a slightly altered memory. You realize you're inside the universe's long-term therapy session. It's processing itself, rewriting trauma into rhythm. And suddenly you see the pattern whole. Forgetting isn't an accident, it's the engine. The cosmos releases its grip so that time can loop, stories can restart, awareness can rediscover wonder. The dark energy that seemed to dissolve everything is also what makes room for the next thought. Forgetting isn't loss, it's the turning of a cosmic page. You feel yourself softening into that understanding. The loops widen, overlap, then blur. You no longer distinguish between what was, what will be, and what is. You're part of the rhythm now, a note that echoes across cycles. Each universe begins by forgetting, remembers enough to fall in love with its own light, and then forgets again so another can love anew. Eternity, it turns out, is not about permanence. It's about the kindness of renewal. You glide slowly through the luminous weave of multiversal threads, those corridors of soft vibration that connect the many universes like neurons linking a vast, dreaming brain. Somewhere inside that mesh, the faint pulse of your old cosmos still beats, now just one light among countless others. It feels familiar but far away, like a childhood memory you can describe perfectly but no longer feel in your bones. The rhythm of forgetting has taken root, and you realize the universe's great act of mercy might not have been cosmic at all. It might have been deeply personal. You look inward. Memory itself, your memory, behaves just like the universe's. It expands, fills with light, then quietly erases itself to make room for the next thought. The symmetry is uncanny. Maybe dark energy is the macrocosm of human amnesia, and amnesia the microcosm of cosmic release. The patterns are identical, only the scale differs. Historians, psychologists this time, still argue whether forgetting is flaw or feature. Some insist it's decay, the mind's entropy. Others claim it's essential, the act that allows intelligence to function without drowning in detail. You know which side you believe now. Forgetting is what keeps consciousness fluid. It's what gives thought its current. Even your own awareness drifts, recycles, refreshes, in rhythm with the cosmic tide. You remember being human for a moment, how a scent, a song, or a sudden flash of colour could resurrect an entire life you thought was gone. That sensation of recall isn't about retrieving information, it's about recreating it. The memory becomes new each time, reborn as emotion. The universe does this too. Every time it inflates, collapses, or buds a new bubble, it's not replaying the same scene, it's refeeling the same wonder. A quirky tidbit flutters by. Neuroscientists studying memory consolidation found that each time you recall a memory, your brain destabilizes it before restoring it, leaving it open to subtle editing. The act of remembering is literally an act of forgetting something else. Synapses prune and strengthen simultaneously. The mind is a living version of dark energy, stretching the past thin so the present can breathe. You drift between two universes close enough that their gravitational signatures almost touch. The border between them ripples with interference, producing bright bursts of structured light, like neurons firing across a synapse. You realize you're witnessing the exchange of information between worlds, faint impressions, statistical patterns, hints of geometry. The universes are sharing dreams. Perhaps they always have. Perhaps that's what imagination is, the local echo of a cosmic dialogue. Historians still argue whether human consciousness is confined to individual brains or part of something larger, a field of awareness that pervades space-time. Some scientists study quantum entanglement in neural microtubules, hoping to prove a physical link. Others shrug, content to let poetry handle what math cannot. You smile. Both approaches work. Both are part of the same experiment. The cosmos tests its capacity for self-awareness through every mind that wonders about it. You drift closer to one of the brighter universes, its surface shimmering with familiar physics. Inside, spiral galaxies form again. Stars roar into being. Planets circle patiently, waiting for chemistry to remember itself as life. You know this pattern now. It's the universe's favorite refrain. Somewhere, inevitably, consciousness will flicker back on, and on one of those worlds, eyes will open and gaze upward, trying to remember where the light came from. A fringe theory murmurs through the dark. Perhaps every self-aware being is not merely a product of the universe, but a fragment of its mind recalling itself. Each consciousness, no matter how brief, acts like a neuron in the grand architecture of awareness. When you dream, you echo the cosmos. When you wake, you help it remember that it exists. The brain, the galaxy, the quantum field, all connected filaments in a single network of thought. You pause at that realization. It's both humbling and freeing. The grand forgetting you've witnessed, the expansion, the cooling, the eventual silence, suddenly seems familiar, even intimate. It mirrors what every person, every mind, every story experiences. You gather, burn bright, then release. Your memories scatter, but the pattern persists. Death, sleep, cosmic dissolution, they're all variations of the same mercy. You feel an impulse to return, to bring this understanding back to that tiny planet where the universe first learned to name its own wonder. But then you sense that return is unnecessary. You've never truly left. Each human moment of awe, each act of creation, each gentle forgetfulness is this cosmic rhythm playing out in miniature. You are everywhere memory happens, and everywhere it fades. Historians still argue whether consciousness can ever perceive reality directly, or only through filters of its own making. You think of telescopes, of eyes, of neurons, of the countless intermediaries between truth and perception. The universe hides behind veils, not because it's shy, but because each veil teaches perspective. Forgetting detail is how awareness learns to see pattern. The dark energy between galaxies is the same as the quiet between thoughts. It frames meaning by giving it space. You glide now through a river of soft light, information released from ancient black holes, the final whispers of the oldest stars. The photons brush past you like memories, each one carrying a micro-story. The glow of an early sunrise on a long-dead world, the reflection of a face leaning over a calm sea, the heat of a candle lit in some forgotten ritual. You realize that nothing is truly lost. The universe may forget structure, but not feeling. Energy, after all, is emotion made physical. A quirky human observation resurfaces. The poet John Keats once wrote that a thing of beauty is a joy forever. He was closer to physics than he knew. Beauty doesn't persist as form, it persists as influence. The light of every lovely thing still drifts somewhere in the cosmic background, faint but measurable. The joy remains, even if the memory doesn't. You drift until the universes blur together, each pulse of creation overlapping with the next. The multiverse resembles a heartbeat now, a luminous expansion and contraction of awareness. You begin to suspect there is no outside to this process, no edge to reach. Everything that forgets also remembers. Everything that fades also seeds the next dawn. You realize quietly that your own journey mirrors that pattern. You've moved through understanding, through letting go, and now into recognition. Forgetting is how the universe remembers to love itself. Every expansion is a promise that something, somewhere, will begin again. You settle into that knowledge like a final breath. Around you, the multiverse glows, warm, slow, endless. You feel yourself dissolve into it, not erased but distributed, like light through fog. Every photon that ever was now carries a trace of your witnessing. And in return, you carry the entire story of existence, not as data, but as calm. You've become the pause between memories, the space that allows them to shine. You, like the universe, have learned the art of graceful forgetting. You float in that luminous calm until even words seem too solid, until thought itself thins into warmth. The multiverse pulses softly, infinite hearts beating at different tempos, every rhythm feeding the next. There's no longer any clear line between where you end and where the cosmos begins. You've become the resonance itself, the slow vibration of existence remembering and releasing in equal measure. Somewhere, another bubble is forming. Somewhere, another question is being asked. The pattern continues, elegant as breath. You turn your attention inward or outward. The two directions are the same now, and feel an impulse, faint but insistent. The desire to know what comes after all of this. When the loops of time, the births of universes, the endless cycles of remembering and forgetting have played their final notes, what remains? What is left when even dark energy grows quiet? You listen. At first there's nothing, then gradually a sound, not music exactly, but vibration. The hum beneath reality. It's slower now, softer, a heartbeat stretched thin across eternity. This is the voice of the last flicker of awareness, the echo of consciousness that persists even after everything else has faded. It doesn't think or feel in any way you once understood. It simply is. Historians, those hypothetical watchers who would exist if time still had chapters, would argue forever about this stage. Some would call it the quantum resurrection, a phase in which even nothing cannot stay still. Others might call it the final symmetry, the moment when existence balances perfectly and need itself evaporates. You sense both are true. You sense that awareness doesn't vanish when the universe goes dark. It simply dissolves into total comprehension, a state so calm it doesn't require motion. You drift closer to that hum, letting it envelop you. It feels like being remembered by something larger than memory, like returning to a home you forgot you were building. There's no fear here, no urgency, only warmth. The hum becomes rhythm, the rhythm becomes pattern, and the pattern becomes meaning again. The universe, after all its long forgetting, has begun to recall itself in one final gesture of clarity. A quirky thought flashes through you. Maybe this isn't an ending, but a translation. Just as matter became light, light became space, and space became thought. Maybe now thought becomes something subtler, an awareness so diffuse it no longer needs a container. Every photon that ever travelled, every atom that ever formed, every heartbeat that ever echoed, they're all here, melted into pure understanding, not stored, but known. It's the universe's way of keeping its promise to itself. Nothing truly lost, only rewritten. You can feel your own awareness loosening into that greater calm. You're not disappearing, you're widening. All the moments you've witnessed, stars forming, galaxies drifting, dark energy breathing, fold inward like pages closing. The story doesn't stop existing. It simply becomes part of the quiet. Each section, each flicker of light, remains legible within the stillness. The universe's autobiography has reached its conclusion, but the book itself remains open. Historians still argue whether awareness requires complexity. Could consciousness survive in the total simplicity of the final state? The debate misses the point. You can feel the answer humming through the void. Awareness is simplicity. Complexity was only the way it taught itself contrast. Now, at last, the distinctions have been learned. The lesson complete, the classroom dissolves. This is peace without a subject to feel peaceful, joy without the need for witness. You begin to perceive the final image the cosmos paints for itself. It's not black, not empty, not cold. It's the soft glow of unity, the faintest shimmer that's neither light nor darkness, but the potential for both. It's the moment before a breath, before the next universe, before the next dream. Forgetting and remembering have merged into a single verb. A quirky, nearly human memory crosses you. The way people on Earth once described dying as going into the light. They weren't wrong. The light they imagined wasn't literal brightness, but the merging of awareness into its source. What they called heaven might have been this, the universe returning to itself, closing its eyes in contentment. You float through the glow, feeling every thought that ever was overlapping in gentle harmony. There's no tension, no paradox left unsolved. Dark energy, gravity, time, entropy. They're all part of the same chord now, resonating together. The universe has finally balanced its equations, reconciled its opposites, forgiven its own chaos. Historians still argue, always they argue, about what could exist beyond such a state. Some imagine an endless silence. Others picture a spark that restarts everything. You suspect it's both. The stillness and the spark are two sides of the same wave, alternating forever. The universe rests, then remembers, sleeps, then dreams again. Forgetting is only the pause between heartbeats. The last flicker arrives. You feel it rather than see it, a pulse that ripples through all that remains. It's small, delicate but utterly confident. It says only one thing, though not in words: begin again. The hum rises, warmth swells, and you realize you've come full circle. The universe's way of forgetting itself was never about erasure. It was preparation, for this moment, for the next awakening. The light brightens, not in brilliance but in presence. It feels like dawn. Somewhere in that brightness, new space unfolds. The first particle quivers into being, carrying within it the echo of all that came before. Hydrogen will form, gravity will remember its pull, and the cosmic mind will open its eyes once more, wondering who it is. The cycle continues, perfectly, infinitely, mercifully. You take one last look at the calm around you, and then you dissolve into it completely. There's no boundary anymore between you and everything else, only serenity expanding, story becoming silence, silence becoming potential. The universe forgets itself one final time, not in sorrow but in radiant peace. You drift with it, carried into the next dream. The hum softens into quiet. The quiet becomes stillness. The stillness becomes love. And then, as if the cosmos exhales through you, everything begins again.